The panel is going to have a Pokemon challenge after this discussion. So those of you who want to join us can join us there. So I said, let there be an icebreaker between my batchmate Raghav's session and this session. So I thought Pokemon, or if you want to talk about Donald Trump, we can. But otherwise, we'll shift to healthcare. This is the most interesting and happening space in our country today because it is, it's growing 17% CAGR. Our country needs it. I don't want to bore you with stats. Basically, there is a yawning gap for need for healthcare in our country. And each of my panelists have something exciting, something disruptive, and something innovative to do in that space. So let's find out from them that what is it which they are trying to do. Because healthcare, somebody who's making tablets, somebody who's making a MRI machine, somebody who's into Ayurveda, into homeopathy, everything is healthcare. So healthcare is too big a field. And we are all playing in one niche or one vertical part of healthcare. And one of the themes which we were discussing before coming here was that we shouldn't compete with each other. We should work with each other. We should collaborate with each other. Simply because the field is too big. None of us, no one company in health tech can do everything in healthcare in India. It's just not possible. And the need is so big. So without saying more, we are at an inflection point actually in healthcare, that the need is there, and where are we going to go now? So we are really at a point in this journey of evolution of healthcare in our country where it will be startups like the panelists here and other people who are not here, but let's say people who are working in R&D, who are making wearables, who are making micro devices, they're going to change healthcare. And all of you will also contribute in changing the way healthcare is understood, how it is delivered, and what all we can do with it. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity that at this inflection point, we have some brilliant minds working in this space, and each one with its own disruptive and innovation model. The one thing common in this panel is that A, they're all innovative and unique, and two, all of them work in a B2B and B2C model. So I would like all of them to now introduce themselves and take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start the wonderful firm you lead. So maybe we begin from you.
Hi, I'm Gauri Angrish. I'm the founder of Coral Carebook. Coral Carebook is a medicine management company. We are a full-service pharmacy that provides additional services that help people manage their medication after procuring it. Our main aim is to ensure that anyone on regular medication is taking the medicine exactly as prescribed. So we have a bunch of adherence services. Our main service is something called CareDose. It's a chronic medication management service. So we provide innovative packaging as well as proprietary technology to make sure that you're taking the medicine as prescribed for the entire tenure. About me, well, education-wise, I'm a biotechnologist, and my focus was on stem cells for cardiac regeneration. Complete twist, and went to McKinsey. I worked in their pharma vertical for a couple of years. That's where I got the idea to work in the space of adherence. I saw a lot happening there. I wanted to gain some experience, so I quit my job and I opened a pharmacy, learned a bit more about the market, and then developed our products.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, everyone. So, can you hear me? That's fine. Hi, everyone. My name is Akanksha Kapoor. I'm the founder of, one of the co-founders of oihelp.com. So our mission is essentially to simplify healthcare. And the way we're doing this is essentially As Ravi said, so there's a B2B and there's a B2C model, and so there are patients, there are doctors, and we essentially help both of them to connect online through phone, video, and chat consultations, book appointments, share reports, e-prescriptions, and the like. So that's a little bit about the company. About myself, I'm basically a DU graduate, and I went on to doing my technopreneurship in Stanford and NTU Singapore. Post which I worked with an investment firm, Mercatus Capital in Singapore, and subsequently Extreme Startups in Canada. So essentially, as a function of these, I worked with a lot of startups in a lot of sectors. Quite of them were healthcare related, and that's where my interest actually came into healthcare. One of the incidents that actually inspired me to get into this space was once I was back from Canada. I was just visiting a hospital. I was visiting somebody in a hospital, and I happened to. I usually pick up random conversations with random people anywhere I go. So I happened to be talking to this 16, 17-year-old little girl who was there with her mother and her little sister. And some of the things that came out of that conversation was that she was not going to study further after that. She was trying to, get her family of three through at 4,000 rupees a month. That was their family income, and and most of it was being spent on the medical bills that her mother was, because her mother was ill. And that's what I thought, that this is an opportunity where you can really make a difference, and where I would really like to come in and do something that really matters, and creates that difference, and brings down those costs. So that's where.
Okay, thank you. And that young girl doesn't want to study, and the poor doctors, they study till 34, 35 before they start earning money. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I am Subha. I am one of the co-founders of BabyBerry. Before I talk about BabyBerry, are there any parents out here? Okay, not bad. Quite a few. Yes. So BabyBerry is all about parenting. So see, we are very lucky to be in the world of internet and mobile apps and web portals. So the moment, say, somebody graduates out of a college, whether it's a man or a woman, there is Naukri which will help them find a job. There are tons of dating apps which will help them find their boyfriend or girlfriend. They want to, go to a nice restaurant or go for a movie. You have tons of apps and websites that will help you. You want to get married, again there are websites and portals that help you. But after you get married, okay, you become a parent. What happens next, right? Completely on their own, right? And this is one of the most important phases in anybody's life, because you're giving birth to a child which is the future of a country, right? And we all know that kids fall sick the most between 0 to 5 years, because that is the time they're building their immunity. They are not yet, their immune system is not yet completely built. And they fall sick, they can't speak. In the middle of the night, the child cries continuously. You might be a graduate from the best schools in India or international. You might be earning a lot. You might be a CEO of a company, but you're completely clueless. You're completely helpless. You don't know what to do, right? So parenting is a big challenge. It's a most important and lovely and wonderful phase, but it's a big challenge. But unfortunately, I would say unfortunately, as a matter of fact, we are in a nuclear family, right, these days. I mean, there are no parents who are there with us to help us, to guide us. I mean, we have more WhatsApp friends than, physical friends, right? So there are very few friends you can look up to. So in this kind of an environment, okay, a parent is completely on their own, and that is where BabyBerry steps in. Right? It's a supporting system for a parent right from the when the woman is pregnant till the child turns 3 years. I mean, you must be wondering, why 3 years? Why not beyond that? See, there are 4 years of the child, the first 4 years of the child, right from the, the time the lady conceives till the baby turns 3 is called the golden years, or the golden period. the brain of the child is completely developed by the time the child turns 3.
So luckily we don't have too many mother-in-laws in the room. So let's move over to Pawan and tell us what you do.
Thank you, Ravi. So I'm Pawan Gupta. I'm one of the co-founders of Curify. Quite shortly, we are a network of doctors. We enable doctors to become more efficient and productive in their lives every day. Primarily, it's a knowledge network wherein we have more than 100,000 doctors today. They come to the platform, they discuss patient cases, get help from their peers on second opinions, differential diagnosis. We get almost like 500 cases on a daily basis. So that's in short, we are helping doctors become more efficient and productive in their professional lives. About myself, I am an engineer. I am an engineer from IIT Delhi, went into investment banking, did a medical tourism startup before starting Curify a couple of years back. Yep, thank you.
Akash.
Thanks, Ravi. Hi everyone, my name is Akash Kanju. I'm one of the co-founders of Mirai Health, and I just want to call out to two of my other co-founders in the room to just raise their hands. Aditi and Neeraj are here with me as well. Quick background, I trained as a medical doctor in Mumbai, and I got my MD from Bombay University. I didn't practice, I went over to the pharmaceutical industry and did about 11 years of pharmaceutical R&D. Somewhere along the way, working with very cool new products, new devices, new drugs, getting into the market, very exciting stuff. We worked on actually one of the latest TB drug that was developed, the first in 40 years. That was one of the products that I worked on. But somewhere along the way, there was a sense that there's great innovation happening in the pharmaceutical side. But when you go to the hospitals, when you go to the clinics, the patient experiences are just abysmal. I mean, there's none of the technologies that we are seeing were really touching the patients. So that was one of the things that was really on our mind when we started talking. I left in 2011. I spent the last 8 years, so since 2008, I've been working in the space of healthcare and technology, primarily focused on how we can use technology to improve patient experiences. I worked with a bunch of great organizations, John Hopkins, Grameen Foundation, IIT Bombay, UN Foundation, USAID, developed mobile health applications for HIV, women's and children's health. And in 2014, came along with my co-founders to found Mirai Health. Our focus at Mirai Health, so the patient pain is adequately documented. Everybody knows, everybody has a story about a lousy patient experience. We really tried to dig deeper and understand why that happens, and we realized that doctors have an equally lousy healthcare delivery experience. And there's a lot of stories about bad doctors and good doctors, but I mean, essentially we found that there are thousands of doctors out there who are yearning to give better care and better experiences to their patients. They just do not have the tools or the resources to do that. So for us at Mirai Health, the goal is, can we put the right technology tools in the hands of great providers and help them deliver a superior experience to their patients, and through that transform the patient experiences. So that's what we do. Our product is a technology-empowered service. We sell to doctors and clinics in Mumbai, Pune, and Delhi. And I'll talk more about Mirai Health in a bit, but that's a bit of our background.
So that's a brief introduction about a very noble panel here. Everybody's intending to do a very nice, noble thing for the public. And I must thank Manifest for selecting a very diverse and unique set of companies to be on the panel. And the interesting piece is that, you know, the public in India is very curious, so they will try each one of these new services. And all of us are trying to disrupt a traditional channel. How will we actually disrupt that channel? And the B2C part works very well. How will the B2B part work? How will each of these firms use health tech to scale, to penetrate, to reach tier 2, tier 3, and provide the need for healthcare, for quality healthcare, which is the yawning gap in our country? How do people get access to quality healthcare? So these are some of the questions which I'm sure you may have in mind, but they'll answer. So, and the other unique thing is that all of us here are in the post public disposable income area, in the sense that if I earn $100, I spend 18 paying my bills, EMI, etc., etc. In the balance 20, I need to look after my health, either prevention or mandatory. So we are in the same space. People don't come to any of our sites for pleasure, or they're just sort of window shopping. They come when they have a need. They come if they need information. So that's the makes it tougher. So you will not have the kind of footfalls an e-tailer has. So we are not in that space. So now I'd like to hear, maybe this time we'll start from that end, that how do you plan to use technology to disrupt a traditional channel, and how do you see your company adding value to healthcare ecosystem?
So fortunately, we worked before starting Mirai Health on a number of large healthcare technology projects. I mentioned some of the organizations and people we worked with. And whether it was in India, we worked in Africa, we worked in the UK, in the US, there were 3 or 4 key learnings that stayed with us. One is, some of them may sound very obvious, but I think it's still important to talk about them. The first is healthcare is a hyper-local business. You will, as far as possible, want to access healthcare with a physician that's as close to you as possible. That's particularly true of chronic disease. The second is technology is cool. Technology can change how you experience healthcare, but the challenge is how do you bake the technology into the current existing healthcare ecosystem? You cannot, either you have the bucks to create a parallel ecosystem, which nobody does, or you find a way to bake yourself into the current existing healthcare ecosystem, which is tough, it's complex, but it's bloody worth doing. The third thing is, how do you make money? And we've looked at hundreds of health tech, digital startups across the world. Great traction. We don't see many of them make money. So for us, from day one, the focus has been, if you're providing value to the customer, you have to find a way for them to pay for it. And so we have been generating revenue from day one, and I can talk more about that later. The way for us to do this is, how do we put the right tools in the hands of the doctors? Ultimately, if you have a cardiac, if you have hypertension, you have diabetes, anything, you need to go and visit your doctor. And how can I then empower your doctor to give you the best care possible? The other thing, just to close this point, is every application, every technology has a consumer value proposition, and the value proposition for the consumer may not be the same for the doctor, but you have to articulate what that value proposition to the doctor is. It could be very different. If I go and tell my doctors, use this technology because your patients will have a great experience, it's not their first 5 problems in a very busy day. I'm not saying that they're apathetic to it. It's not their first 5 problems. So the same problem, the same product has to have a different value proposition to the doctors, and that's something we've learned, and we've seen great traction with our customers because we're just articulating the value proposition very differently to the doctors and very differently to the patients.
We'll be flexible. If you have a question for Akash, you can ask him now, or we can do the questions later on. So if there's no question, is there any question for Akash at this stage? So we'll carry on. So Pawan, maybe you would like to tell us.
Thank you, Ravi. So similar to Akash, we also work on the doctor side. And yeah, the point he mentioned that the incentives for the doctors to use a technology platform may not align with the incentives for the patient. So that's why we also decided to work on the doctor side of it, because we saw a lot of people working on the patient side. So broadly, we enable doctors to gain more knowledge. We enable doctors to make the right decisions for their patients. And that's how we see technology actually making an impact in the healthcare system, and not just with the doctors, but with the actual care that they deliver to their patients. So one of the things that we have seen happening on our platform already is the coordinated care. So more for the 80% of our population actually lives in smaller towns, where you won't have access to specialists. You'll barely have access to some doctors or GPs at max. I mean, on villages, you won't even have access to that. And there are a lot of the cases, cardiac cases, cancer cases, they're happening all over the country. For patients to be actually diagnosed with the right condition, can take them months, it can take them years, and sometimes it doesn't even happen. And what we have seen is here a GP posting a case and the reports on this platform, and the cardiologist or the oncologist actually answering those cases and enabling a quick diagnosis. So the entire process becomes pretty fast, entire process becomes very efficient for everybody, and the end result is that the right care is delivered at the right time to the patients. Second thing is obviously making doctors more efficient and making them more knowledgeable, keep continuing their education even after their college. We have had doctors saying us that after the college their education actually stopped. I mean, who has time? Doctors, they have their huge books and all their in huge journals in their clinics, but honestly, I mean, they are busy people and they don't really have time to go through a 2,000-page book each and every day. And the treatments are evolving so fast, it's difficult for anyone to keep pace. And similar to how software engineering has evolved through means like Stack Overflow, Quora, or Hacker News, I mean, we're trying to achieve the same thing here, and we're already seeing the results of this happening. And last but not the least, it becomes a medium for the industry to reach out to the doctors. So that means any new drug which is being launched by a pharma company, it's, I mean, the pace of information which they can deliver that information, send that information out to the doctors becomes lightning fast. I mean, because it's a digital medium. And for doctors, it becomes a very, very, very good platform to learn about new stuff happening across the world, to keep themselves updated, and eventually give the right and the latest care to the patients. So this is how we see our platform, our solution impacting the whole healthcare chain.
Thank you. That's pretty good. So you are making calls to doctors, and you tell us how are you changing the landscape for parenting?
Yeah. So BabyBerry is a technology solution to parents. So how we are helping parents, the first thing is, as Pavan also mentioned, the availability of doctors is very high in the cities. But when it comes to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, there is a lack of, the availability of the good doctors. So BabyBerry is a platform through which parents connect with the doctors across India. So the parents can be anywhere in India and they directly talk to the doctors for either through consultations or queries. So that has really worked out very well for us. And secondly, we also provide a lot of content, parenting content, based on the age of the pregnancy or age of the child. The right content is recommended to the parent. So they don't have to go and search in Google or ask someone else. So it's more of a pull model, it's more of a push model, not a pull model. So they're not going and looking for information. Information comes to them at the right time. So they are well prepared to handle situations.
So I think I'll add on to what Pavan and Akash were saying, about how they're using technology to, reach out or make healthcare professionals more accessible to places where they aren't really accessible right now, which is the tier 2 cities. So I just want to, bring out some facts before I actually tell you about, how we're doing that, is that about 60 to 70% of the doctors actually reside and practice in metro cities. And about 70% of the primary healthcare issues can actually be resolved over the phone or, just through telemedicine. And one of the key findings that we've had, while we've been building our product and while we've been talking to a lot of doctors, is that about 60 to 70% of them actually call the patients to their clinic not because they need to do a physical diagnosis, but
Is basically someone who is supposed to take a medicine as prescribed is not doing so. And this means missing a dose, this means taking maybe a dose at the wrong time, this means taking the wrong medicine at the right time. It means a whole bunch of things. So, and the thing is that this problem bothers a lot of people in the ecosystem. For example, if I am on chronic medication and I am not adhering to it, non-adherence will result in problems for me. It will also bother my family members or my caregivers. It will also bother my doctor, because at the end of the day, if a doctor is prescribing you, he's giving you a prescription, he expects you to adhere to it, because if you come back after 3 months and your symptoms are just the same, he doesn't know whether he's supposed to trust his treatment or he's supposed to trust the fact that the medicine worked or the fact that you didn't take it. So adding to the point which Akash mentioned, that if you have the same product, you have different value propositions for doctors. What we've done is that we've taken our product and we've used technology to have different value propositions for the 3 sorts of individuals I mentioned. before I explain that, I'll have to show you the product. This is not a product pitch, as I already told everyone here. It's a very physical product, and I feel what I'm going to say will be make more sense. So what we do is we essentially are a pharmacy, and we deliver your medicines every month in a box like this. Now this box contains, just hold the box, thanks. This box contains your medicines for the month. They are pre-sorted, packaged, and labeled by dose. Thank you. So the first aspect is that for the patients, our first thing was to create sort of a trust aspect with the patients we're dealing with. We had a lot of patients signing up with us directly. So we use technology. The first use of technology for us was in our back end. Well, the first essential thing is that we made all our software as proprietary. They run the entire process. The second thing we did, which was very difficult as a startup, was we got a robotics company on board, and we've developed, designed, and executed a machine which automates the entire process at the back end. So we start with full strips, and then for each order, the complete hands-free automation packages it for each different prescription. So that was our first barrier to cross for the consumers, because of this, we gain trust from the consumers. It's hands-free, there's error-free, so that's where we use technology. The second aspect was that when we are talking to doctors, we hear a lot of the problems which I mentioned. So what we've done is that we've integrated IoT, and that's going to be our next version of our dispenser. We've integrated IoT in our dispenser, so we get real-time information on when a patient is taking out his pills. So we get real-time adherence information. Now this information is shared with the doctor, obviously after consent of the patient. And after that, the doctor is able to realize the adherence patterns and therefore exactly what worked or what didn't work in his medication prescription. The third aspect is the caregiver angle. Again, we're using the same technology, which is IoT, to give us adherence data. But what happens in this case is that we are dealing with a lot of caregivers who are starting off their parents or grandparents with our service, and those parents or grandparents are not living with them. So essentially, they're distant caregivers. So they want to know, they need to have information about the fact if their parents are taking their medication on time or not. So instead of alerting them and telling them about their time of medication, we're launching a negative adherence app alert, which means that each time your parents or the person you're taking care of is not taking the medicine on time, because we get to know with our smart dispenser, that's when the caregiver gets an alert. So he can call up his parent and be like, okay, it's 9 o'clock, you need to take your metformin right now. So these are the ways we're integrating technology, and it's very, very essential to our entire approach.
So Gauri, anybody who's interested can leave their address and you'll send them a sample, right?
Of course, yeah. I like the way she asked, are there any parents in the house? I would love to ask chronic patients, but I think that's not okay.
Okay. So all of them are trying to change a traditional way of doing things, trying to solve a new problem. Akash, if I can come back to you, what's the challenge you face in scaling up your business and increasing market share? What do you see? How will you leverage technology to gain market share?
So, all of us in Mirai Health, my co-founders included, we signed up with this for at least 10 years. We know that changing healthcare is not the same as launching a cool app. It takes time. Now, it takes at least 10 years. We looked at impactful healthcare companies around the world, and the most impactful ones have taken 12 to 15 years to get to a good size. So that's an important data point, because then it allows us to work backwards and pace ourselves right. You do things at the right speed. And Ravi, you've been a pioneer in this industry. One of the currencies in this industry is trust and credibility. And that's something that, no amount of Facebook likes is going to get you that trust and credibility. Ameera spoke about it in the morning. Going to every doctor. So our business is basically going to a doctor and saying, let us manage your patient relationships. You have 4,000 patients mapped to you. From tomorrow, we are going to start managing them. We can't play with that. That's serious trust that they hand over to us. So our focus right now, Ravi, is not so much on market share. Our focus is on two things. The first is, are we growing our revenue quarter by quarter? Because we are in the revenue business. Our doctors pay us, and that's a very important way for us to judge if we are actually providing them a value proposition. And our price points are reasonably high, so we know that if they are paying us, they will use us. The second is utilization. So are they going to use us or not? That's the second thing. They're paying us money. but how much are they using us? How much are their patients using us? And we are growing about, in the last 6 months, we've grown about 400% in utilization. Our revenue is growing about 60 to 80% on a quarter. It's of a small base, but we know these are very, and we've done this for the last 6 quarters. So we know it's a very positive trend. Those are the ones that we want to focus on right now. Once we get to a bigger critical mass, which I think is 12 to 18 months, that's when we'll start thinking about market share.
Yeah. So as somebody would paraphrase, you're concentrating on unit economics and not just scalability for the sake of scalability.
It's both.
Yeah.
You can't have unit economics on a base of 10 doctors,
Yeah.
but I don't need 100,000 doctors to make good money also. So you have to strike a balance.
So since all of you are in healthcare and this is a serious care delivery related subject, how is regulation or the lack of it or the absence of it or over-regulation, would any of you like to talk about how does it impact the business? Any of you?
I think pharma is something where regulation is quite a hot topic. But so basically, regulations is something which, well, like you said, it's the lack. I mean, again, lack of it is too strong a word maybe, but it's just that the fact that it has not evolved in a while. I'm purely talking about pharmacy retail. The act of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act was made in the 1940s, and there have been amendments which were, I think, that around the 1970s. So essentially, when the amendments or the act was made, I feel internet was not even thought of at that point. So a lot of the e-platforms which a lot of pharmacies are using, there's a big gray zone. Although we are not an online pharmacy consciously because of these reasons, but there are a lot of gray zones that we also face because we are repackaging medication, so there are no laws for it. We've done a lot to, we've tried to get a lot of licenses, and we've over-licensed ourselves, essentially, so that, for example, the repackaging license, we've got a repackaging license which is meant for manufacturers, but we've got it for ourselves because that does protect us in some way, because it can always twist and turn and come back to us saying that what you're doing is illegal. So I feel like a lot is happening in the space of changing the regulations, and a lot of effort is being made. So I'm waiting for that to happen. But till then, we're just building a fort of documents to protect us.
Okay, thank you. I just heard the bell, the sounding bell for the time. So any questions from the audience to any of the panelists? Yes, please. Then the table last.
My question is to Gauri. It's very interesting to know that you've been able to make the doctors check the prescriptions about the patients having their medicines in time or not. Because the general practice is, if you go to any hospital, the OPD days are really packed and the clinics have hours of waiting, even if you are going for a regular checkup. So how have you been able to make this practice so inclusive?
Okay, so firstly what we're doing is, I always feel, when, this is my personal opinion, when you're launching something new, it takes time for people to come on board with it. So it's very important to select the first few or the first few hundred people you're going to force to adopt your way. So initially we are working with, we are not going the OPD way, we are not going the overcrowded hospital way, we are going with chronic doctors who are doing complete disease management. So we are going with those doctors who are interested. I'm not saying the others are not. Maybe these people have more time, more patient-centric time, more time to analyze what's happening, because they are giving treatment outcomes or options, or they're changing their treatment based on their patient outcomes. So we're working with more with the doctors who, like I said, are doing disease management, chronic disease management.
Okay. Any other question? Good. So thank you very much. I think I wish all of you the very best. And next time we meet, you should collect a lot of more Pokemons by now. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.